Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today, I'm bringing you Meredith Layton. So we actually met at a conference. We were talking about it afterwards. So I'm like, we should have kept recording. Yeah, it's funny how God puts like people in your path. And she met Tara, who, Tara from doing our Friday devotionals. And they met in Pennsylvania, but they really lived down the street from each other in like outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. It was kind of funny. So God makes awesome connections. Meredith is brilliant. So she's an entrepreneurial visionary with a passion for brand development and connecting people through business. She received a BA from Memphis State University and an MA from the School of Audiology and Speech Language Pathology at the University of Memphis. So she was doing all of that, but she really is like a serial entrepreneur. So we're talking about her franchise business with all of her pies and also putting, letting the Lord lead with your business. She's definite visionary, and I'm excited to share this episode with you. So let's dive in. Hey, Meredith, welcome to the show.
Hello, good to see you.
Good to see you too. So let's dive in. Tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Well, a little bit about me. I don't know. I don't mind starting with age these days. I think that helps people kind of put you what time frame you're in. So I'm 54 years old, and my husband and I, Scott, own a franchise system of pie shops, so bakeries, and we started in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's what we do. Let me tell you about who I am. Who I am really is Scott's wife, mom to two amazing sons who are 26 and 21 now. And that's my biggest joy is watching them where they are at this time, in their lives. I've got the youngest who's 21 is heading into his fourth year of college. And the oldest at 26 is heading into his last year of medical school. And so they're thriving and doing well. And Scott and I are still running our business.
Amazing. So how did you get into entrepreneurship? What was that journey like?
I think I was born into it. I think I was born into entrepreneurship, probably in the womb, and learning more and more every day. But from the time, my earliest memories, I was doing sidewalk sales, books, even as a 7-year-old, right? Like trying to sell mud pies on the sidewalk. So I think entrepreneurship is something that just won't die hard if it's the way you're made. It's the way you're made. So we've done a lot of things, and usually it starts with a need that I see or that God puts in my heart. This one ended up very interesting because I wouldn't have said, like, I don't have formal training as a baker, and neither does Scott. So this entrepreneurial journey that we've been on with the pie shop looks a little bit different. Sometimes that grows out of a passion you have or a hobby, something like that. But for us, the passion has always been business. Like, where does this fit in, and how is that creating ripples in the bigger environment and culture? And so I guess I would go back to say that the bakery journey started about 13, 14 years ago with a little cupcake shop that we started in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, on the with the support of my sister, who's also very entrepreneurial. So I come from a family of 2 girls, siblings, just the 2 of us. And we both ended up having that entrepreneur spirit. So we entered in with cupcakes. We morphed eventually to pies. And then there were other things before that along the way, publishing company and writing children's books. And it's not that it has to be in one sector for sure. Yeah.
I love that. You're very much like the traditional entrepreneur who's like, I have all these ideas, all these things that I want to do, very ambitious. So like, let's just do it all.
Right. Why not? Until something stops you, you just keep going.
Just keep going. So did you just realize you had really good cupcakes that you wanted to sell?
The cupcake part, my sister realized she had really good cupcakes.
Yeah.
And she's truly the baker in the family. and so she had a bakery business, and that was my first. We had already done a publishing company. We like I said, for my life, I've known I'm an entrepreneur, but the cupcake, the bakery sector part of our entrepreneur shop part of the story starts really with my sister, and her being a great baker and coming to town to visit me around Thanksgiving in Knoxville. She's from St. Louis, and she already had a bakery at that time, so she shared what she was doing to take her bakery that she had been doing from home into cupcakes. That was back when cupcakes were a rage, right? Like it was kind of the coolest thing on the scene. And she told me about it. I had been in speech pathology. So my training, I have a master's degree in speech pathology and audiology. And at the time I had been doing that. I'd written, like I said, children's books in that arena, and done everything, probably from birth to the grave, served that population as far as I could, and done as many different things, speaking engagements and all that kind of thing. And I was like, I just want something different. Like, this is amazing. I love what you're doing. And that's something that we could do here in Knoxville that nobody's done. So with my sister's help and encouragement, we opened a bakery, and we were her first licensees of the brand. So not really a franchisee, but a licensee of her cupcake shop in Knoxville. And we ran that successfully for quite a few years before entering the pie business. So I have to say that she was the one who gave us the nudge into the bakery business.
So cool. So then you started the pie business.
Yes.
And then that worked really well. And then you started franchising it.
Correct. That is exactly right. Yeah. So after we opened right before Thanksgiving, 10 years ago, on like the main drag through Knoxville, down towards campus. And we didn't know really what we were getting into, at that, when we opened those doors, and how much people really did love pie, and how much of a heartfelt dessert that is for people. And so and especially, the timing of opening, we knew it would be a good time to open before Thanksgiving. But it was an excellent time to open before Thanksgiving. So we had lines around the door. It really generated a lot of publicity for us locally, and actually, nationally. So things took off really quickly from there. And I think even when we opened the pie shop, we had already done cupcakes, and the entrepreneur part of me and Scott also, he is too, but probably to a lesser degree. He's more implementation, and I'm more visionary, probably. So all that to say, we started it with the hope that it would be something that could expand, and built it that way. So after we had done cupcakes, we were like, when we step into pies, we really want this to be something that we can enter that franchise space.
Cool. So you went in with the intention of franchising.
With the idea that we would. Yes.
Yeah.
So because we didn't really know the pie business 100% yet, we thought we need to see a few things to know. One would be, are there lines into people like pie as much as we think they are? Because this was our first go at it. And there was, we had the advice and support of a firm in town that kind of gave us counsel on how to get started. We got a franchise attorney, and started asking him questions, and it just kind of took off from there.
Are there things that you think you have set up differently within the business and operations, knowing that you had the intention of franchising versus if you were only going to have one location?
Yes, definitely. And even still, that had to be refined and refined and refined as we learned. It's all been a learning curve. But yes, pretty quick out of the gate, we knew that we were going to have to scale back on how many products we were offering, types of products we were offering, in order to simplify it enough to have a process. And so, a traditional bakery, you'll offer all kinds of things in the beginning. And we really were testing that for the first year. Within the first year, are what are going to be the mainstays of the brand. In the beginning, we were freezing our own ice cream with liquid nitrogen. I mean, we were doing a lot of different. In fact, the Buttermilk Sky name was still kind of attached to that. Even it was like, describing this southern term for a sky, but it was the nitrogen cloud that would arise out of the ice cream when we would freeze it. So there's all these things that are still kind of little attachments to the past that still remain in the brand. But we made biscuits. In the beginning, we did homemade biscuits. We made homemade jams. We knew we were about pie, but we also had these other affinities that our grandmothers had made that we thought, will these work? And then you find out pretty quickly that you've got to be really good at what you're good at and let the non-essential things kind of fall to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And really take a look at what are the ones that that people are what are they coming back for? What can you duplicate easily, and what will other people be able to do across across state lines when you're doing training, when you're providing support, that when you're the logistics of what can be delivered different places. So we really had to hone in. Yeah.
Amazing. What are some maybe leadership lessons that you've learned from having to manage all those people, all the franchises, and all of that?
How long is this podcast?
So a lot of lessons.
And learning. This was a big undertaking, a very big undertaking. And it's been an amazing journey. And what have we learned? We've learned so much about ourselves. We've learned a lot about other people. We've learned about the type of franchisee that does well in our brand, and who we need to look for, much better than we did in the beginning. And just more than anything, I think we have learned. Um, We've had a lot of spiritual learning, just to be honest. It's been a spiritual journey, because you begin to look at why we do what we do. Why do others do what they do? How do we make it when things don't look like we expected, right? And we've had lots of those moments in this brand, lots and lots of self-examination, external deep dives, scriptural, um, Holy Spirit, things that we've known about and walked with our entire lives have come into focus, a much finer focus after 10 years. So we're 10 years in. Yeah.
What are some things the Lord has taught you through that process?
Oh, wow. Identity has been a huge thing, especially over the past 2 to 3 years, is more and more about not just our own identities personally, for Scott and myself, our team, but for those around us. And how do you encourage people in who they are? And until you know really who you are and who you've been made to be and are very secure in that, it's hard to do that for other people. So we are a relationship driven brand. We always have been. It's always been the mission that God put us on. But until you know, you don't know, right? And I think you have to be honest about that. I've always known who I am to a degree, and then there's more, and then there's more that God begins to reveal. And I think knowing, I ran into you and to Tara at the Kings and Priests conference, and we can get into that or whatever. But that was another huge one. Before that, there was another conference we were at, and we're in a time of just learning more about sonship and daughtership and stewardship, and pouring into the lives of others in ways that we just never knew that we could or that we were equipped for. So yeah, we're still on an amazing journey.
Yeah. So how do you think your identity has it shifted as you've kind of grown, or what does that look like?
I would say it has, yeah. Where I would not say that my identity was ever completely in what I did or completely in the business. There were definitely portions of that that you don't feel until they're challenged, right? You don't know until you know, like I said. And so I think finding out that I have been a performance oriented person my whole life. I've been very driven my entire life. And when the external drive for success or for people's approval or fear of man outweighs what's coming from the inside, or at least competes with. There are challenges. So the Lord has been so good at teaching us that, and that's never comes easy. Just to be quite honest, that never comes easy. So while from the beginning, our brand has always known who we are and what God said we would be and have set out to do that. There are challenges, like you said, there's supernatural, there's a spiritual realm competing with that at all times that we were not super aware of, just to be honest, 10 years
Me
ago.
too, until like a year ago, and I'm like, whoa.
No, right? And I agree because I've been listening to some of your most recent podcasts, and I hear the same. I thought about that today. Even the Lord reminded me of that. Before this, I thought, my goodness, what she's going through is exactly what we've been going through. It is, and you're like, wow. It's hard to explain and to even put into words,
Yeah.
but it is just a pushing forward. There's more. Like there's more I need you to know. There's more I want you to learn about.
Yeah.
There's no way we could have even begun, I don't think, to know until the timing is right and God moves you into these areas and expands your vision and opens your lens to make it wider and allows you to look through other people's lenses, which is super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say one of the books that has meant so much to me is Culture of Honor by Danny Silk, and Culture of Honor is one that I've focused on recently, and the Lord's had me doing a deep dive into that, and it means so much. That one and The Fivefold Effect by Walt Pilcher. Those two books have been very important, even just in the last 6 months. I would say if I had to hone it in, like where are you right now? Even in the last 6 months, there's been a deep dive into leadership. My dad did that for Federal Express for years. That's what he was, corporate communications. That it was all about. He was at management level over communication in the company. And that's one of the challenges that we've honestly had at Buttermilk Sky is relationships. So you set out to be a relationship driven brand, you might as well know that things will come against that. And it's been difficult. It's been difficult, holding the line, holding brand identity as a franchise system with unity and still allowing for creativity of the owners who join your system, valuing them as people, honoring, and at the same time trying to hold to something that's been challenged or difficult, right? And just finding that balance. So Culture of Honor is a book that talks about how do we look for that in other people and look through their lens and then look through our lens and share that for unity. And The Fivefold Effect is really just great about fivefold leadership, and how if my dad were still alive, he would be all about, we would have lots of conversations about leadership. And so while in the past I would have focused on the Myers-Briggs or on the Enneagram or things like that, the Lord has honed in on Ephesians 4 and said, study this and study it in depth. And I want you to study the hand, like the 5 fingers and how they work and the muscles and tendons and ligaments and how that, just deep dive into leadership. So
when you're looking at franchise applications, do you require that they're a Christian?
No, we do not. And we ask questions about values. We ask questions about aspirations. We have, and I'm not going to be able to think of it right now. It's like the franchise industry profile. I can't think of the index we use right now. And that's kind of, I don't handle that, and I can't think of the name of it right now. But we have it's an indicator that we give people when they come in to assess their success, the potential success as a franchisee, as opposed to maybe an entrepreneur or a franchisor yourself or somebody, just an independent consultant. Because a franchisee, it takes a different type of person. Usually you need to be able to follow order well. A lot of engineering types and things like that who like order and like process are very good at franchising. I'm a nightmare as a franchisee.
You want to do your own thing.
My sister will tell you that. As a licensee, we were pretty hard to deal with, and we love each other, thank goodness. And that relationship was super maintained, and there were some tight periods at times because we realized we didn't know. We were just kind of diving in back in the cupcake days, and she was so generous and hospitable and loving to let us join her beautiful brand. And the first thing I started doing was, well, this needs to change. Well, this needs to change. Clearly, like, what if we did this? And I'm sure she was like, what do you even want to do this for?
Yeah.
And so, there are the challenges of franchising because, that doesn't mean that someone is a bad person or wants to destroy your brand. It just means that there are things in them that they need to be able to express, and so how we deal with that becomes the issue as you're a growing brand. And people need to experience at least somewhat cohesive brand experience from one location to the next across state lines. So.
Are you ever worried? I'm like, how do I say this with the growing political climate and like just flat out satanic agenda that's been hitting America? Are you ever worried that you're going to have somebody that goes completely against your values as a Christian representing your brand?
I can't say that I've worried about that.
Okay.
I can say that I wake up every day intentionally now, like, because we've had such warfare, and it is very real what you're speaking about. That I wake up every day telling the Lord, today I'm submitted and I'm available. Lord, I'm submitted and available to you, Lord, and your purposes. And I know that your plans prosper and they're not mine anymore. And he's been so good to meet there and to give me such freedom around that, because yes, that would be a concern.
Yeah.
I would be concerned about all kinds of things that I used to really lose much sleep over. But this is a really new place for us, and it's a place of rest where but active rest, very active. We're probably more active. I'm more active in the business. It's more behind the scenes now because I'm more out of that founder visionary role. But being able to rest in that and knowing that I'm submitted and available and humble before the Lord, what he does is amazing. So I don't have to fear. Fear falls away in that. And that's a beautiful thing. And not leading out of fear is essential for a good entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Because fear-based leadership is failure. I'll just say it fails in every way. That's also, like we said, in a spiritual realm. In the spiritual realm, that's what you're up against in business. Ministry in the marketplace. The Lord's been saying for at least the last 4 years to me. I'd wake up with it. Ministry in the marketplace. What does this mean, Lord? Like, I thought it was in the beginning. You put us on this path 10 years ago. But the ministry in the marketplace is literally walking out our faith, and we're just doing it alongside the business he put us into, right? It doesn't, for so long, that Kings and Priests conference that we were at, just learning that how those mesh. And when that conference came up, I was like, my goodness, this is my heart's cry. This is what he's been saying to me for at least 4 years. Is that these things mesh and they go together, and we are kings and priests, marketplace and ministry. And there's no clear dividing line there. In fact, I've erased the dividing line.
Oh, how have you erased that line?
Well, he has. So when I'm saying God has he has erased that, and I am learning that from the Lord. So, so the dividing line is, the world would tell us that you can't mix those two. You can't. That's not mixable. And me being, in the baking business, you can put two different bowls and don't put them together. But it's essential, I feel like, in this day and age. And like I said, we're a relationship driven business from the beginning. From the beginning, our mission statement is about connecting the past to the present. Connection. We're built on relationship. We're built on connection. And you will hear in franchising and other places, you can't lead a brand like that. You cannot lead a business that way. You cannot be about relationship. I completely disagree. And I knew that from the beginning, but I have to say at different times we felt sideways in that. Like, are we,
Mhm.
well, maybe we're wrong. Maybe we are wrong. Maybe this isn't how you can lead from a place of love and leadership and power and sound mind and
Mhm.
all these things. Like, but you absolutely can, and that is the intention.
Mhm.
If you look in scripture, great marketplace. If you look at Ephesus, for instance, the Lord's had me in Ephesians so much, and Nehemiah building, right? Like all these places, absolutely, it's critical that we rely on our faith and that we do talk about it. We don't, I don't ever want to cause anybody to feel like in our business you must do this to be a part of us. It's not, God's not that way.
Mhm.
So we don't have to be, for sure. It wouldn't be helpful.
Yeah. No, I
But
love that.
he makes himself known.
Yeah. And I love the distinction you made of like there's no difference between ministry and marketplace and they can go together. I think a lot of people think if they're called to ministry, they have to be a pastor,
Right.
right? Like they have to be on the pulpit.
Right.
But you can 100% bring a ministry into the marketplace.
Yes. I agree.
I
100%.
love it.
Yeah.
Let's talk spiritual warfare. So before we hit record, we were talking about my trip to Ireland and just like the warfare that I experienced there, which is pretty wild. I'll just like do quick recap. So I went there for Chris Tomlin concert in Belfast. It was amazing. But I saw witches and people like almost throwing up after the concert, having like deliverance basically. And it was very interesting when they started to play. I stood up to worship and the staff was like, no, you have to sit down. And I'm like, I came here to worship. Like, what's going on? And so they were having everyone sit down. Um, and yeah,
Wow.
it was in the Lord was just showing me how everyone was in, like, I saw people in bondage. And then I was like interceding. It was just crazy. I was like weeping at the concert. But I leave the concert and immediately I am in a ton of pain and I like cannot even walk home. I had to get an Uber and sit on the sidewalk and I'm like so the rest of the trip I was like in and out of like pain, but then I started having nightmares and like crazy crazy stuff, just feeling like the fear, anxiety, like all kinds of stuff. And then you were saying how you felt like spiritual climate in different areas. So why don't you share?
We did. And, in mine, there was a little of what you're talking about there, but we've experienced plenty of what you're talking about,
Yeah.
much of that through the last several years.
Hmm.
But in Ireland, I was surprised in a different way almost that when we walked into cathedrals, the places where I felt that maybe it was just like old, just to say old religious structure or things that, this is not how we worship in the United States, like gorgeous cathedrals. So you're thinking, well, I'm here for the architecture pretty much, or whatever. The stained glass, is beautiful. And you're going on tours and they have the little headsets and you're walking through and hearing. So you're thinking cognitively, not heart or spirit, right? But my spirit was so touched in these places. And I was like, what is happening? Like spirit, like Holy Spirit, like, are you moving in here? Like in these church icons and like these, I think I had a mentality or something that this was kind of a dividing thing. Like we're here
Yeah.
on a tour, we're looking at the beauty of this church, and then I'd be hit by the spirit. Like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Like I didn't expect it. And so it was a really neat time of awakening. I think of spiritual awakening for me and mindset and what where he entered, like where the Holy Spirit is moving and alive and where he's not. Like I think I had some misconceptions there that in Ireland where my eyes were opened a lot. Like wow,
Mhm.
like um, the church history in some of these places. And like I said, I can't even remember the exact cathedral that we were in, but one I just wanted to drop to my knees and worship. And it hit me out of nowhere.
Mhm.
It was just unexpected. And so knowing that he works in a multitude of ways, and it's our heart and our submission to him and willing to ask, where are you right now? Like, where are you? What are we doing? Like, I'm always like, what are we doing right now? Like he's probably always like, I don't have to tell you everything, but like, what are we doing right now? I want to join you and wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And so we meet him and in unexpected ways, like what you're talking about also. Much of that. I've had much of that in different settings, in different churches, things that even a year ago, even right about a year, my experience is about the same as yours. Things like, do I need to run? Jesus, do I need to like run out of here? Jesus, like what's happening? Like, as I didn't know the spiritual climate, but it's a preparation I know now for some of the ministry that we're walking in. So,
Mhm.
and understanding that and discerning of spirits and Holy Spirit gifts and these things that in my traditional upbringing, I've been a Christian since I was 7. I know that I received the Holy Spirit at the time of salvation, but coming alive to the Spirit and having truly allowing Him to invade places of my life and to receive gifts of the Spirit
Mhm.
has been mind blowing.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And then to do that, that does shape everything. It has to shape. If you are involved and you care about your business and you care about people in your business, it's going to begin to shape that.
Mm.
But if people are not used to it, or it's just or you walked differently prior to that, right? Because it is a transformation, and I couldn't have counted on. I didn't know it was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful transformation, but it's also odd.
It's very weird. I'm like, what has happened this past year?
Correct. Correct. I would have to say, yeah. And just listening to your last few podcasts, so Leif Hetland is one who's also been like you've interviewed the ones also that we have been like the books, the interactions with, personal interactions with that have been like also unbelievable. And so Will Hart, listened to his on the drive here actually, and we've met up with him probably at least 3 times since then. He lives in Nashville now.
Yeah.
So, but we were so touched by him at the first Friday night of any conference we've ever been to at Global. And we walked in on a Friday night and he prophesied over my husband first and then over me and then over our children, of course, just giving God's word like he does, like a word for people. And um, us hearing about the last 5 years of our life from God through Will was life changing, and what God says about future and those things. And you just can't make this stuff up.
Right? When it's like that accurate and you're just like weeping, like,
And then you find out, like, oh, you're not like we're here in Pennsylvania, but you're in Nashville. Oh, really? Oh, really? So your office overlooks the Buttermilk Sky Pie Shop there? Oh, you were going to send your daughter there to get a job. I mean, it's like, what's happening, right?
uh-huh.
And then I don't know, with Leif Hetland's book on Made to Reign has been one that I just digested in about a week. Like I just like it consumed me, and
Yeah.
we had gotten to speak with him also at Kings and Priests and had him pray over us and talk to us about some of the difficulties really over the past 5 years, really difficult times.
Mm.
And he was so encouraging. And then you read his testimony, we'd already known his testimony, but to read more and study more, and we're like sponges. So.
Yeah. So how have you experienced maybe some of that warfare in your business specifically?
Well, like I said, franchising is challenging. It is a challenging business. It's very litigious. It just is from the beginning of franchising. And so it's been things like that. It's been challenges of seeing things differently, of trying to hold a line to something that you feel like you've been called to. We know we've been called to, but to do that in a manner of power and love,
Mm.
um how do you do that with mercy and justice? Where's the line? Like these lines.
Hmm.
And so we've had, like I said, a lot of legal things. We've had leadership changes and difficulties, and seeing eye to eye, and then maintaining truth. That we always want to be truthful. We always want to be loving. We want to hold to what we're called to hold to with great stewardship because we're called to it. But at the same time, love people well, and specifically when they're coming against you, or coming against what God's put your hand to, and that we've been called to. Like, so it's been super challenging really from the get go. Like,
Yeah.
I always tease about, don't put a Bible verse on your box unless you're ready to ready to jump in. Because from the beginning, even the mission statement is share pie, share love. We're about a share love brand. And finally, the Lord, especially through ministry and marketplace, like I said, marrying these and awakening us to and fivefold ministry. That fivefold ministry is becoming very important, even on how we see our corporate team functioning. We work a lot on that over this last year, really deeper dives into how do we function? How do we look through each other's lens instead of always saying, you got to look through my lens. You got to see it my way. Like, how can we see where God has gifted them, because he has. And so, like I said, those old personality inventory indicators that I was all about, psychology degree and communication degree, master's in communication. And I've been about those for so long. And God just said, let me show you how simple this is. This is super simple. Let me take it. Look at the hand I put on your body, right? And each one, in fact, if you can see my fingernails, they're
Oh,
actually,
those are fun.
because they're colored different, so I can remember things like what I'm telling you about. And so this would be and it's neat. In the fivefold effect book is where he kind of gets into how does this work everywhere, like in business, whether you're a Christian business, whether you're not a Christian business. This Ephesians 4:11 tells us how to build unity, how to build maturity. So that can be in a church, it can be in a business, big time, because it's about valuing each other and knowing that there are these areas that God has called people into for leadership, specifically leadership. And then there's all the giftings and all that when you start getting into that are more specific. But this approach, it's like, this is what I've been looking for, Lord. This is it. Because it really helps you understand leadership gifts. So if we did it for our business, then here on my thumb would be a founder, right? The founder of the company, a visionary. This would be the CEO, your pointer finger pointing the direction, right, of the company, taking in fresh, really, if anyway, again, this would be marketing. The tallest finger that has the farthest reach would be your marketing department. Here would be like HR, human resources that work on relationship within the company. And the pinky finger would be training, teaching, any of the logistics, inner workings of the brand. So our teachers are here. So, and if you look at our leadership team, we fall very clearly into these, but we weren't always honoring that in one another. So how do you honor that in one another and then still come as a cohesive team? And then on the bigger scale in a franchise system, you have to lead other leaders that way, other owners that way who have their teams to lead. So this is still very new for us and beginning to be able to do that. And like I said, it really kind of works into that Culture of Honor book also by Danny Silk.
How do you honor those different gifts and help people to kind of like step forward and utilize them to help you grow the company?
Well, first of all, know who you are. that takes a lot at first, right? And so knowing where you operate out of. And because what you'll find out, or what I found out, is I had expected other people to see through my lens because I'm the visionary of the company. Scott and I both are, but I'm heavier on that. And so this vision that the Lord gave for the company, the brand vision that he gave from the very beginning, um, you want people to embrace that, and then people are drawn to it because they're buying your franchises, right? They're coming in, they're saying, I like that brand, I like that. Well, that's well and good, and that's where you want that to start. But you have to understand that everybody's not going to see it through your lens forever, right? They may come in with that, and that's what my heart is made for. So if you look at this in Ephesians 4:11, Ephesians 4:11, this is apostle, this is prophet, this is evangelist, this is pastor, and this is still teacher or training, like teacher, biblical knowledge. And so, how do you honor someone well is to begin to see how God created them to be. So, if you're not a founder with a visionary role, you may be a CEO. My husband serves this role, CEO for our company, but he is very prophetic. Like he receives a lot of fresh input. So that fingernail is orange because that's fresh fire. And this fingernail is pink because it's the power and love of the spirit. So each one of these I kind of did just as like a little cheat sheet. But God was telling me study the hand. And what you'll find out about studying, and I should have like probably found a resource or a source for this for you. But as I was studying different things on the internet, one of the things I read was that these two fingers, the pastor and the teacher, and you could see that in the brand as like human resources, how you handle people, and how you handle logistics and the inner workings of the brand. Because I think originally, you might think, oh, the founder, the CEO, like these are the power, right? There is power here, but 67% of the power of the hand is in these two fingers in operation together. And 50% is in the teacher, like the training. And so this just a lot of those inner workings. So beginning to say, wow, like Sarah and Morgan, who are on our corporate team, handling their sisters, but they handle different roles within the company that are highly focused on training, logistics, brand development, shipping, like these things. These are essential. So wouldn't you think you want these people to have more of a voice on your team, right? And in the same for franchisees, that you want to value that. Now, do we still have to hold true to our vision that we set out to? Absolutely. This is when I say power, there's power, the opposable thumb, which hey, I identify with sometimes. The opposable thumb on the hand really touches each one of these, and it gives stability, right? So you embrace who you are, but then you look to how has God made the person next to me, and what are they good at? And there are plenty of pitfalls right here that I know I'm not good at. But you need to know that well, and you need to surround yourself with those other ones that God has created specifically for the purposes they're made for. So ask him to see with fresh eyes what he sees, and not just what I see through my lens. Help me see through their lens and see, Lord, what do you see? You created these people, and you created them very intentionally, like you did each one of us, with a role to serve for both unity and maturity in the body. So
I love that revelation that he gave you. Like
yeah,
it like
really
it makes so much sense, but I've never heard it like talked about in that specific way, especially applied to business.
So I grabbed that book, The Fivefold Effect, at Global in February, and have read it. And then the Lord has just kind of gone deeper and deeper because we've had so much difficulty, as you do, as like any young franchise does, right? In holding these places and valuing people, because we really want to be about good relationship, but good relationships have come hard, just to be honest. It's been difficult uniting people, and especially in this day and age and in our culture. And so that's still a goal. I mean, it's still a goal, and we know that God's in it, and we have to just every day, like I said, Lord, I'm submitted and I'm available. What are you up to? Reporting for duty.
Yeah. How do you, I guess, handle your role as visionary, with like what God is giving you? Has he given you like a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, or like are you just kind of like moving as you're seeing things?
Both. I think we get a plan and then we release that plan back. And so it doesn't ever feel like like we can have lots of plans. I've always been a planner, honestly. Like, I love plans and I love to have goals. And what has happened over the course of this business over the last 10 years is even periods of having to sit back, the Lord has called me back and said, sit the bench just a bit, dear. Like, let's sit the bench a bit so you can see this from a bigger perspective. Because what happens is you get in and you do have these goals set. And we're at 5 years, we want to be this many franchises. And now we just closed two, and COVID came, and we had to rearrange things, and we had relational challenges. And so I think you set them and you work toward them. And then you're continually releasing things as well, right? And that came harder for me than it used to come harder for me than it does now. But it doesn't keep us from setting goals. And so, even we sometimes will have to scale back. We might get midstream and go, okay, like, what's happening here? What do we need to, if we said we were going to open, just say 4 franchises in, whatever, first quarter. I mean, that's a pretty strong, but that would be a strong goal. But that we wanted to open 4, or sign, I should say, sign 4 people up to do this thing with us. And then we started, like I said, meeting challenges. Sometimes it could be a supplier issue. Like in any business, when you're growing and depending on other businesses for your business, there are so many outside challenges that sometimes you just don't know about. And it's really about how do you communicate and how do you preserve good relationship in this and work together instead of against one another. So I don't know. I don't think that answered the question exactly, but somewhere
in there.
Somewhere in that realm, I think you might find an answer.
No, that's really good. You actually made me think of my dad. So he runs like a brick and mortar business. They manufacture air dryers. And so he has been talking a lot about like supplier issues that they had post COVID, because it's like they get an order for a certain price point, but then like by the time they're making it, the cost has jumped. So then they're like in the red making the thing, but he's like, but we're going to do it because we need to keep the good relationship with those people that are buying from us. So you made me think exactly of him in this moment.
Yes, there's been a lot of that. There has been a lot of that. Yeah, for sure. So
good. Where can we buy some of your pies?
Well, you can go to one of our brick and mortar shops, and that would be listed at our website at buttermilkskypie.com. So any brick and mortar shop, those are all independently owned within our franchise system by owners. And the other place is online. So online, we have shipping now. And you can do online shipping through buttermilkskypie.com. Just go to shipping on the website.
What's your favorite or most popular so people can know which one to order?
Oh, it changes. Probably my all-time favorite is the classic Nanny's pecan pie. Of course, I'm a little biased because it's my grandmother's recipe. But Nanny's pecan, I love nuts. Number one, I love pecans, and I love a little, and it's just a buttery goodness, home felt, take you back home pie. And you put ice cream on it and you can't beat it. So it's probably my all-time favorite. And my second favorite would be key lime, especially this time of year. Our key lime pie is outstanding. It just is. And with my 2 sons, they were December babies. They were both born in the month of December. And I craved key lime pie so bad in the fall. I wanted key lime pie. This is prior to us ever having clearly a pie business. This was way back when. And when we opened a pie business, I said, one thing we will put on the everyday menu is good key lime pie. For those moms who have December babies, we're going to get that craving. We're going to have a key lime pie all year round. And so our key lime pie is still one of my favorites. In fact, I brought one down here to the beach with my friends. So yeah, we'll be eating some of that in just a little bit here.
I'm like, should I tell you? I don't know if I've ever had key lime pie.
What in the world? Aren't you in Florida?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you'll have one after.
Okay.
You will have one. Just we'll make sure that that's taken care of in a big way.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so we have your website. Is there anywhere else we should connect with you?
Yeah, Instagram and Facebook at Buttermilk Sky Pie Shop, at Buttermilk Sky Pie Shop. Yes, and Buttermilk Sky Pie Shop for Facebook.
Cool. Meredith, you're awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Rachel.